Sorry about that. Just drinking something and it was making the face tracking go a little wacky. Okay. So this is about the first dude. First murder, called Don't Look by people on 4chan. And it says, Otani was a Nikonia live streamer who did regular shows called Today I Learned I Can See the Future, where he would make prophecies. He cut off his own right arm in the middle of a live stream, put it on a plate, and then ate it in front of his audience. After that, he most likely died from blood loss. It seems likely he committed suicide in a fit of insanity. Police are looking for whoever visited his room directly before the suicide. They are considering prosecution for abetting a suicide. Kurusu's expression changed a little. She probably hadn't known that. The suicide had been big news, even on TV, so she'd probably seen it there. But the details had been so horrific that the news didn't mention them. But those details could be found anywhere on the internet. It was only a matter of time before someone started putting it all together. The video itself had even started to get around.
そして、少し経ってからいきなり苦しみ出して、死亡した。見ていた人は事件として発覚するまでいたずらか何かだと思っていたみたい。
出血性ショック死な。警察の発表でもそうなってたし、混沌するまでの時間を考えても間違いない。
Ito added, Ito knew more about this stuff than I did. He was a fan of bizarre murders, and he'd read 10 times as many killer's diaries and nonfiction crime books as I had. Not a good hobby, to be frank.
何らかの理由で精神が錯乱した上での自殺って見解が濃厚らしいけど、警察は自殺の直前に部屋を訪ねてきた誰かを探しているらしい。もしかしたら自殺幇助や自殺教唆の疑いがあるんじゃないかって。
Oh, I still have Discord open. It's probably one of the reasons why my webcam is glitching out more than usual. In Japan, if you saw someone trying to kill themselves and didn't intervene, it wasn't a crime unless the police could prove you wanted them to die. Hold up. Did I remember to put graphic violence? Nope. Let's add that. There. Updated. But aiding in a suicide or encouraging someone to commit suicide was illegal. That meant that the police were probably looking for whoever met Otani just before his death. That's a whole lot of strange, hard-to-prove conditions for prosecution. No. They've prosecuted people for abetting a suicide in the United States before. It's not that difficult. You just have to prove that you had intent to push someone into suicide. It's not that much more complicated than proving that you, like, were involved in a murder. Kurusu was silent, but she was looking at the board and seemed to be listening. It seemed safe. On to the next case, then.
2つ目は19日に起きた事件。死体の状況から音漏れ炭っていう通称がついてる。
Audio bleed.
深セン。名前は高柳桃音、20歳。ニコニアの歌ってみたの歌い手で、最近ネットで有名になってきてるアニメソングのコピーバンドのボーカル。復興祭のステージで歌うことも決まってた。バンドの派手な衣装を着たまま一人でストリートライブもしていて、晴れの日は毎日決まった場所、決まった時間で演奏していたらしい。その日はいつもの場所にかなり遅刻して現れてライブを始めた。だけど何か様子がおかしかった。声が小さくていつもの感じじゃなかったらしい。 死亡した。こっちも失血死。ライブを始める前からお腹を刺傷していたんだ。
Not just that, it says that they put a speaker inside of her stomach. Not just stabbed, they performed surgery on her.
妙なのがやっぱり遺体の状況で。伊藤、再生してくれ。
What video? What video do you have? What video could possibly have? Ito tapped a few keys on the computer's keyboard. Oh, someone was recording it, of course. It was a live show. And a moment later... Didn't notice the blood? Huh? Kurusu looked confused when she heard the sound. Evidently, she wasn't able to make it out.
ああ、そっちじゃなくて渋谷ニュースが音声いじってアップしてくれた方。
ああ、そっちだよな。
iTunes. My favorite software. Oh my god, they were playing... They were looping audio through the speaker? That's so nasty. Her expression changed. She must have been able to hear it this time.
ありがとう。ゆっくりしていってね。常連のお客さんによれば、いつも彼女はこの一言からストリートライブを始めていたんだって。
ニアドユーザーだからな。なんでも歌ってみたの歌い手の中では彼女のライブが一番だって最近評判だったらしいぞ。
Kurusu seemed to be ignoring me and Ito. She was staring at the computer screen that was the source of the sound.
悲鳴は死体を発見したお客さんたちのもの。動画で撮っていた人がいたんだ。で、今のは高柳さん自身の声で。お腹に埋め込まれていた小型のスピーカーから聞こえてきたんだ。
Sang it singer. What a way to anglicize utaite. Yeah. Tried their best. This is a patch for the English translation, so that was a fan translation.
つまり、その日のライブは最初から録音されたものだったんだよ。
後で発見された証拠によると、彼女はコンビニで売ってるカッターで自分で自分の腹を裂いて Bluetooth のスピーカーを埋め込んだらしい。
Just like the last murder, this person did something that would otherwise be impossible to do and still like walk around and like hold a guitar and attempt to play a song.
ガムテープで止血とも呼べない適当な応急処置をした後、着ている服と衣装でその傷を隠してライブを始めたんだ。最初は録音した自分の声に合わせてギターを弾いていたらしいんだけど、途中からは歌声だけになった。それからはうつむきっぱなしだったみたいだから、その時にはすでに死亡してたんじゃないかな。だけどお客さんは様子がおかしいとは思いながらも気づかずにずっと聞き続けて。
Oh yeah, because they were hypnotized by her voice.
彼女のポケットに入れていた携帯音楽プレイヤーが傷から流れた血液で壊れたのか、最初からそういう設定だったのか。とにかくさっきの音声トラックがリピート再生されるまで死んでいるとは気づかなかった。
Kurusu's face was a mixture of confusion and discomfort. Of course it was. She'd never heard of something like this before. I couldn't hold back my excitement. Really, dude? God, he's so detached from all of this.
すごいだろ
Sugoi? Ah, kakkoi! Like, why would you say that? It is not sugoi. Not sugoi at all. Instead of agreeing, Kurusu's brow furrowed. She probably didn't realize it, but she'd wrapped her arms around herself. What was wrong? Was that a little too creepy? Maybe. This dude is unbelievable.
でここまでは単にこれまでの事件の整理だろ発見ってのは
Oh yeah, he's right. I used the computer to print out a series of pictures. The most unrealistic thing.
両方とも事件の目的はわからない
The most unrealistic thing about this so far is that the printer works very well. Unless the printers in Japan are built different.
今のところ唯一の不審人物である大谷氏の部屋を訪ねてきた人間が何者で何を考えて何を話したのかも見当がつかないでも僕はこの妙な事件はまだ続くと思う被害者の共通点からの推測でしかないけどね
はマジか
Ito leapt out of his chair in shock. Well, I couldn't blame him.
共通点に関しては散々話し合ったろ分かったのは渋谷に住んでることと宮堂のユーザーだったことあとはまあ2人ともある程度の知名度があって自殺した状況が異常だってことくらいかでもそんなもんじゃそれ以上のことは何も見えてこなかっただろう
気づかないか別の共通点
I pointed toward the bulletin board as I spoke. Ito looked really annoyed.
偉そうにしよってからにそもそもこっちの気を引くようにプリントアウトしてるやつはなんだ
Yeah, it's going on for fucking ever, dude. Can we stop with the printing? Oh. One of the best parts of finding something like this was seeing the angry look on his face. Well, it was only yesterday that I found it myself, though.
じらさなくていいから何を見つけたの
Kurusu beckoned for me to go on. No matter what she said, after hearing all this, she probably wanted to know what came next. Oh, I finished printing. Kazuki suddenly stood in front of me. She offered me the printed images without a word.
ありがとう
Then she offered me something else. A lollipop?
くれるの
She nodded. Weird interaction. Kazuki seemed to be communicating in her own unique way. She walked over to the bulletin board and tapped the data print tapped the data printouts on the two cases with her finger.
和樹どうした
She did it again. I saw the part she was pointing at and nodded.
そう日付だよ7日19日共通点9月7日と9月19日渋谷で発生した異常な事件わかるだろ
I kept looking at Ito. Usually he would be the one to pick up on this. A second later, he froze. He must have figured it out.
猟奇マニアのお前ならわかるだろ
I pinned the images I just printed out onto the bulletin board's map.
9月7日集団ダイブ
Yeah, that's from the first game, Chaos Head Noah. These are the murders. There was a series of serial killings that occurred during the game as well. And they occurred on these dates.
9月19日妊娠男9月29日貼り付け10月10日ヴァンパイア10月23日ノータリン10月28日うまい手11月4日ドキュンパズル
Umaite. Yummy fingers.
ニュージェネレーションの狂気
Yep. 6 years ago, in 2009, a series of strange deaths had occurred just before the earthquake that struck Shibuya on November 6th. They became famous for the words left by the killer. Sono me, dare no me. Whose eyes are those eyes? They called the killings the New Generation Madness. The murders took place in Shibuya, but the whole country took an interest in them. At the time, I was in 6th grade, and just like a lot of people, I followed every new development on the internet.
日付が6年前の事件とぴったり一致してるんだ。事件も自殺っぽいっていう内容はともかく、猟奇的だという点で同じ。
A cute little tidbit is that the patch that I downloaded, the website where I downloaded the patch from, the URL is whose eyes are those eyes? Sonome darenome. It is creepy. It's a creepy URL.
偶然でしょ。
Guzen. Ah. She seemed to be trying to force the words out of her throat. Kurusu was acting a little strange. Her arms clutched her torso even tighter.
副部長
Maybe it was because of all the creepy pictures she'd seen. Kurusu was clearly shaking. No, this is too extreme. Like, I understand, like, covering your eyes, being disgusted, turning away, but shaking? That's something else. She tried her best to stop it as she spoke.
何でも関連付けて大きくしたがるのはやめなさい。2つたまたま一致しただけでしょ。
Two?
偶然かそうではないかはすぐにわかるよ。ニュージェネ第3の事件が起こったのは9月に今日だ。
Oh shit. Today. Group dive. That doesn't really... I mean, I guess it's because they were both recorded, but the second one, man-child? Oh, actually, you know what? I see the connection there too. I'll let the game explain it.
もし今日渋谷でまた妙な事件が起こったら、その時は間違いない。偶然が3つ続くなんて放っておける要素じゃないだろう。
It's like he wants it to happen, though. A phone rang. It was mine.
はい、もしもし。
事件だ。いや、事故？とにかくタクの言う通りのことが起きたかもしれないんだよ。
I could feel my heart starting to race as she spoke. It was a love hotel area in Dogenzaka, 5 minutes from Shibuya Station. A few days ago, there had been some kind of suspicious fire here, and I had come here to do some reporting. The place was supposedly a love hotel spot, but even at night when business should have been booming, it wasn't particularly exciting. During the day, when all the lights were turned off, if you didn't look at the signs, it wouldn't look very different from your average neighborhood. One of the buildings was a 4-story love hotel with the terrible name Fairies Dance. It faced a narrow street and there was no parking lot, so the police car was parked at a meter nearby.
こっち
Serika was standing in front of a general store some distance away. She was supposed to be spending the day taking photos of the area around the last two crime scenes.
何があった？
わかんない。さっきゲンさんと107の近くですれ違った時に、ここで何かが起きたって教えてくれたの。
相変わらずあの人はよくわかんないな。どこから仕入れてるんだ、そんな情報。便利だからいいけど。
Gensan was a homeless man I knew who had sold me all the books in my secret stash. He was a drunk who claimed to be of noble blood, but the stories he told me about his past didn't sound very noble at all. The guy was a weirdo, but since he spent all his time wandering around Shibuya, he knew a surprising amount of info about it.
でも、大事なのは間違いないっぽいよ。さっき中に入ってった警察の人が応援呼んでたみたいだし。
I see. I decided to start by taking a video of the outside of the hotel with my smartphone. Ah, full battery.
お前、こういう時だけ足早いな。
I'd left the two of them in the club room and they'd only just now caught up with me. They must have ran here. Ito especially was breathing very heavily.
なんだ、クルスも来たのか。
Kazuki had decided not to come, evidently. Of course not. I'd never seen her outside except when we were going to and from school. She's too busy gaming, dude. Why come to a creepy love hotel to check out a murder when you could be playing video games, right?
で、事件か？
I told Ito what I'd heard from Serika. He seemed really disappointed.
なんだそりゃ。単に血は喧嘩かなんかで騒ぎになったんじゃねえの？
それだけでわざわざ応援なんて呼ぶか？それに、今日は29日なんだぞ。
だから気にしすぎだって言ってるでしょ。
Kurusu seemed upset. She glanced at the love hotels around her in disgust.
早く学校に戻りましょう。学生がいていい場所じゃない。監視カメラに映っているのが問題になったらどうするの？
Yeah, that'd be pretty bad. They'd probably get expelled. She probably didn't want to get involved. Ever since the rebuilding, there had been more cameras around Shibuya than ever before, even around the love hotels. In our school uniforms, we probably stood out. Kurusu motioned for us to go home. And then, I saw something in the viewfinder. What? On the third floor of the Love Hotel, the windows in one of the rooms facing the alley were open. The windows must have been open all the way because the curtains were fluttering out.
なあ、普通こういうとこって窓開いてないもんだよな。
Oh, hello! Bear raid! Bear raid! Bear raid alert! Hi! Hey, Umakuma! How are you doing? You're very eepy, but you hope I'm doing well? I'm pretty sleepy too. And I hope you're doing well too. Hi everyone, I'm Melody Wisp. I'm a variety sheep English vTuber. I play visual novels and RPGs and puzzle games and stuff. And I'm also a transcriptionist and proofreader and closed captioner. So I like to make sure that my automatic captions are decent. And I'm neuroqueer, aromantic, asexual, intersex, agender. I use they, them pronouns. And we're playing Chaos Child, which is a visual novel in the Steins Gate universe. It's completely standalone, so you can play the game without having played any other entry. And it's a horror game. And right now we're playing a teenager who is visiting a love hotel because they were told that there might have been a murder that occurred here. So we're gonna go investigate because we're incredibly nosy and we're detached and we don't care that other people are dying. And yeah, it is really good. The writing is very good. The music and sound is awesome. It's very eerie, like the music playing right now, and it's just fun. So let's continue. I asked Ito as I looked up at them.
まあそうなんじゃねえの？使ったことなんかねえからわかんねえけど。
Ito followed my gaze and saw it for himself. This. It felt suspicious. I'd never been to a love hotel either, so I didn't know. But normally you'd keep the windows shut, right? You wouldn't want people seeing or hearing what you were doing. And then, suddenly, I heard a sound from somewhere. It was a calming song with a simple melody. I took a closer listen. Was it a music box? It definitely was. It was coming from the room with the open windows. It sounded like it was inviting us in. What was going on? I looked around. The building across from the open window was another love hotel, but it had no windows on that side. I couldn't look into the building like I'd done with the karaoke box last week, and I certainly couldn't climb my way up.
ちょっと何考えてるの？
I must have had a pensive look on my face because Kurusu had turned to me curiously.
バレないように中に入れれば。
I looked over at the parking meters. There was still only the one car. Okay.
裏口ぐらいどっかにあるだろうから、応援の警察が来る前に済まそう。伊藤、そっち側から回ってくれ。
おお。
Too close, Ito. Too close. Back up with your smooth helmet hair.
僕はこっち側から。
ちょっとタクル、こっち見なさい。
I began to go around the building, not waiting for Ito's answer, but Kurusu grabbed my arm.
ダメ。こんなの部活の範疇じゃないでしょ。私の言うことが聞けないの？
You should listen to her. Voice of reason. She's always right, honestly. Crap. She was just a millimeter short of making that face again.
しかもここ、いかがわしいホテルでしょう。それに、もし妙なことに巻き込まれたらどうするの？
I knew all that, but I didn't want to give up. This might be my chance to get a real scoop.
停学にでもなったらどうするつもり？姉として弟を危険な目に遭わせるわけにはいかないの。
Oh.
弟というか、家族でも何でもないじゃんか。僕たちは。
Why would you say that to her, dude? She cares about you so much. You're her family. Why would you say that? So mean. Kurusu immediately grabbed me by the collar with incredible force and brought her face so close to mine that our foreheads touched. I could tell that her cheeks were flushed. There was a small, wordless growl from deep within her throat, and her arms were shaking a little as she held me. What was she trying to say? No, I knew exactly what she was trying to say, but Kurusu didn't say it. Kurusu wasn't the sort of awful person who'd bring up the distant past to try and win an argument. And anyway, that was all over now. It wasn't either of our faults. Oh, it was your fault. Totally. Suddenly, Sedika ran over and tackled Kurusu. You should be tackling Takuru. The momentum slammed both of them into the ground.
ちょっとセリカ、何して。
Yeah, what the
喧嘩
hell?
はダメだよ、のんちゃん。タク、5人でみんな仲良くが新聞部のモットーでしょ。
No, that was never our motto.
しんちゃんも止めなきゃダメじゃん。
いや、つうかどこ行ってたんだ？
ああ、そうだ。喧嘩してる場合じゃないんだよ、タク。
She suddenly hopped up like a cheap toy.
裏のドア開いてる。喉乾いて自販機なくて、ホテルの中ならあるだろうと思って裏のドア見つけて開けて、中入って自販機やって、さすが妖精のダンスじゃん、やるじゃんって思って買って一気飲みしてたら、あれって。
んだよそれ。
お前いつも後先考えずに突き進むよな。
タク、どうするの？
I could tell that Kurusu was glaring at me, but she didn't say anything. She couldn't say anything.
二人で行こう。カップルの方がいざという時にごまかしが効くかもしれない。
Oh, really? In your high school uniforms? Absolutely not. As soon as the words were out of my mouth, Sarika beckoned me to follow her. I did. I didn't say it, but in my heart, I apologized to Kurusu as I went. Oh, you definitely should have said it out loud. God. Of course, she couldn't hear me, so she didn't say anything.
階段、向こうなんだけどな。
Hello, Billy's Game 1. How you doing? We're at a pretty scary section, I think. We went inside the hotel from the rear entrance and hid behind the corner that led to the lobby. If anyone's interested, we do have new Discord server too. You could join and get alerts to whenever I go live. Along with the fun community that we're building so far. We went inside the hotel from the rear entrance and hid behind the corner that led to the lobby. This was my first time inside a love hotel, and it was a lot less gaudy than I'd expected. I'm good. Trying to remember where everything is in Bug Game. Hollow Knight. How's the game? Scary game. It's fun so far. And I hope you're having fun with Hollow Knight. I haven't played it yet. Maybe one day. The name was false advertising. There were no fairies and no one was dancing. Ah, just like when you go to Walgreens and you're like, wow, these walls, they ain't green, dude. That's so rude of them to lie like that, right? And people just accept it. They're like, oh, well, I guess it's fine. I just never noticed that the walls weren't green at Walgreens. It's disturbing, honestly. Maybe the quiet atmosphere was a selling point? Oh, but...
ですから人を早くよこしてください。いや、それは新庄さんに聞いてください。
Shinjo-san. Also, I hate it when they have the heartbeats. Because I do have dysautonomia, so sometimes sounds like that really they actually make me a little sick, so. The silence was ruined by the sound of a police officer screaming into his phone. He was either confused or just excited because he kept saying the same things over and over again. Something had happened after all. And something bad enough that he needed backup. This was my chance. If we could get to the scene before the place was overflowing with cops, we might be able to find an unexpected scoop. God, he really loves this, huh? It's like how Tractor Supply, all the times I've been inside, would never have tractors on display. That's outrageous. Like, you should sue, honestly. You can sue for anything in the United States. Maybe you would win, and they would have to just have, like, a disclaimer on the front of the stores that always says no tractors on display. And then for Walgreens, of course, it would say walls aren't green, or they would be required to always paint the walls green. Obviously, that would be awesome.
はい、それは間違いありません。確認しました。ですがこちらでは判断が。いえ、ですからそういう状態じゃないんです。
That cop was in the way. Ah, Takuru just said a cab. Whether we took the stairs or the elevator, we needed to go through the lobby to get to them.
タク、行くよ。
Why the hell is this place called Fairy's Dance? What are these plants? Doesn't even have the aesthetic. Like, this isn't a Wonderland or anything. No pixie fairy aesthetic at all to be found. Truly a travesty.
早く。
Wink. Serika took me by the arm as if we were a couple and entered the lobby without trying to hide at all. She ignored me and walked straight for the stairs.
Oi!
The cop must have seen us because he yelled at us from behind. Shit, he probably hadn't seen our faces. Should we run? No, that would just make us look suspicious.
部屋から出るなと言っているだろう。はい。いえ、すいません、大丈夫です。それより早く応援を。
I wonder what this police officer does not see their school uniforms, because what? Why would you think that they're just patrons of the Low Hotel? What, is it dark in here? He started to mumble into the phone. I almost said recrossed. We crossed the lobby without looking back. Crossed. Walking across the grass.
無茶するなよ。
へへん。でも、タクの言った通りだったじゃん。ごまかせたごまかせた。
What the fuck? What are we, in Mexico? What is with this tent? I can't believe we went to Mexico. This game has been taking place in Mexico the entire time. We're actually in Shibuya, Mexico.
びっくりした。
That was too close for comfort. My heart was pounding so loud that the noise was making me sick. Could he not tell that we were high school students? No, even if he only saw us from behind, he should have been able to tell by our uniforms. Why didn't he arrest us? Maybe he was panicking so much that the thought never occurred to him.
ってと、どうしようか。
Serika let go of my arm and turned toward me. That's right. Now isn't the time to think about other things.
外から見たあの場所が現場かどうかはわからないけど、とりあえず3階から当たろう。そこが外れだったら他の場所を見ていく。警察の応援が来たらそこで切り上げ。でも警察の様子から見て、やっぱり何か事件があったんだ。絶対に取って帰ろう。
オッケー。
What? What do you mean, okay? Was he saying that aloud? It sounded like he was thinking it to himself. Hold up. No, he was saying it aloud. It doesn't have the parentheses. It was quiet. The policeman's voice was still drifting up the stairs, but it only made the silence seem more oppressive. Just like he'd said, the customers had probably been told not to leave their rooms. It was too late for it to matter now, but I was starting to feel a little scared. Come to think of it, if something had happened, maybe the killer was still here?
そういえばタク、まだのんちゃんと喧嘩しちゃってるんだね。
Serika's voice was relaxed. I was grateful. I'd take any opportunity to relieve this tension.
喧嘩ってわけじゃないよ。
No, maybe it was.
でもまだクルスって呼んでるんでしょ？気持ちはわかるけど、なんとかならないかな。
Yeah, call him Nono. Until half a year ago, I'd call her Nono, her first name. After the incident that had caused me to leave the dorm, I'd never called her that again. As long as I kept calling her Kurusu, she'd keep being mad at me. It must have been hurting some important part of her.
タク、
The next thing I knew, we were on the 3rd floor. Serika had gotten ahead of me at some point, was poking her head around the corner and into the hallway.
誰もいないみたい。
よし。
I took out my phone and got ready to record. As soon as I went into the 3rd floor hallway, I found myself holding my breath. My heart was pounding even louder than when the cop had yelled at us. I tried to control myself and looked down the corridor. The rooms must have been very big because the gap between the doors was large. The floor was red, sinking into black as the hallway stretched away. I could hear the unpleasant sound of blowing air. They must have had the air conditioning on. There were no windows and there wasn't a lot of light, so the hallway looked pretty creepy. But there was nothing out of the ordinary about it otherwise. But still, it was strange. The air felt solid. It felt like someone would jump out from the shadows the second you let your guard down, or perhaps that there were traps scattered everywhere along the floor. Oops! Booby trapped! Oh, pranked! Woo! So wacky! Oh, who left this banana peel here? Am I right? I can't do a clown nose noise. Nope. I'm trying. It's not working. It's not. I'm making weird noises. For a second, the floor seemed to be stained with blood, but I took that image out of my mind. Yeah, a little dramatic, huh? What was this? It was like the fear you feel in the darkness at night. Was it just because there was so little light? How you, watch out for the mouse traps. Oh no! Oh no, there are rakes everywhere. Don't step on them. Also, what do you know about the fear you feel in the darkness at night, dude? You're not a woman. It's, people that are smaller, and have more to fear, feel that fear intensely at night. It is like, when I was in high school, I would have to, of course, walk from my grandmother's house to the bus stop. And, especially when it was, cause, I went to a magnet school, so I would have to get up at like 3 to 4 a.m. and then leave for the bus at like 5-ish. So I would have to walk in total blackness, just the sun wasn't up. And every single time, as an anxious agoraphobe, you know I was running. A lot of the time I was running to the bus stop out of fear, out of paranoia, so. Like, what do you know about the fear you feel in the darkness at night, dude? No, it was worse than that. It felt like someone was watching me and enjoying my unease. Ah, whose eyes are those eyes, huh? It was like they were peering deep into my heart. I almost jumped off the ground with a start.
どうしたの？
Don't just talk to me out of nowhere like that. You scared the hell out of me. なんでもない。なんか変じゃないか。
Yeah. I gestured down the hallway with my head. Terika looked past me into the darkness.
そりゃ暗いからなんか不気味だけど、 雰囲気作りとかじゃないの？
Was it? Was that all? You know, that has like a double meaning, right? They could be setting the mood for like, I don't know, sexual rendezvous at the hotel, or the mood might be set for people to find the dead body. I don't know, I'm just pointing it out. Was I being too sensitive? I tried flipping the light switch on the wall next to me, but nothing happened. Maybe the bulbs were burnt out, or maybe it wasn't the switch for this hallway at all. Damn it, this wasn't 1407 or something. What? The hell is that? Is it another fictional piece of media? Oh, come on. No. What the hell? Oh, I must not be pressing the right buttons. Yep. 1407. A fiction... Yeah, it is fictional. A 2007 American horror movie about a hotel room where all the occupants commit suicide, based on a work by the master of modern horror, Stephen Queen. Classic Stephen Queen. Slay! Love to learn about Bluetooth. Take it easy. A phrase often used at the start of videos on Nikonia originates from a piece of ASCII art. Okay. Didn't know that. Oh! My bad, I dropped my microphone. Not as good as Stephanie King, in my opinion. Stephanie? I don't know about that. Manifesting IRL. I turned around. The only person there was Serika. No one else was looking at my name. My name? At me. No one was looking at my namae. My na. I took some time to make sure of it before I spoke.
行くぞ。
Okay. Serika nodded cheerfully and stayed behind me as we walked deeper into the hallway. I remembered the location of the window I'd seen outside. It was probably deeper in the hall, the furthest one back or the one before it. Is that a normal thing people can do? Like, you see like a window in a house and you go into the house and you can just like, you can just figure out where the window was? I can't do that. That's bizarre to me. That's like a superpower. A weird, like, very weird superpower. Mostly useless, but a superpower nonetheless.
あの二つのどちらかかな。
I walked as silently as I could down the long hallway, toward the last rooms on the left side. With every step I took, I could feel the sensation of the hallway floor through the bottom of my heels. It was like I was being forced to think about the nerves that I'd never used. My body felt very tense. I didn't see any cops in the hallway. Thank fucking God. No pigs. Usually, they'd at least leave one person here at the scene. Was this the wrong floor? Oh! Fun! We reached the second to last door. Room 306. Oh! Fuck! We hit a decision point. You know what that means. Poll time. And an ad break. Perfect. Let's construct the poll. Poll is up. Choose your own adventure. What decision do we make? Do we go negative or positive delusion, or do we not choose any choice at all? It's only gonna be up for a minute. Negative delusion? Okay. You can use honk shoes to push your decision if other people vote. It looks like it's just gonna be negative delusion if no one else votes. Ready for the negative delusion? Oh, it's gonna win. It won. We're doing negative delusion. I listened carefully, but didn't hear anything revealing. Just the quiet rumble of the air conditioner.
覗き穴とかないの？
Come on.
ここはラブホテルだぞ。
ああ、そっか。
おい、何を。
ノック。
お前な。
And then suddenly the door flung open.
なんじゃこれ。誰だノックしたアホは。
An angry and very underdressed man came storming out. His hair was short and permed, and he had a gold necklace around his neck. Oh no, this guy is bad news. It's Kintama! Serika had frozen in surprise.
お前か。ノックしたのは。
When he glared at me, I shook my head without thinking, and then he turned his gaze towards Serika.
だったらお前か。なめとったらどうなるかたっぷり教えてるからな。覚悟しとけ。
The man grabbed Serika by the hand and tried to pull her into the room. Oh, nasty! I don't like this.
ノックしてきたのはそっちだろうが。勝手なこと抜かせな。
I hate this! Stop! Pakuru! She turned toward me for help with tears in her eyes. Something really bad was about to happen to her. No fucking shit! I had to do something. I had to. Is that the Yakuza true? Yes. Oh, look at this weak ass. Please stop. Please, sir. I was suddenly kicked in the solar plexus. Extremely exact. The force sent me flying all the way back to the other wall, where I collapsed to the ground. The pain was so great that I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even stand up. And then the door shut. I could hear the man's yelling and Serika's screams from within. Wow! All I could do was crumple up into a ball on the ground, crying in fear and frustration. What a fucking weird delusion that was. What if that happened? Yeah, what if that happened, dude? What if? What if pigs started flying? He's like, let me just imagine that the worst thing happened to Serika. Not me, Serika. Serika was just too reckless. We didn't belong in a place like this anyway. I bit my lip and watched in fear as she kept knocking. So she was knocking on the door. It's a silly thing to do, honestly, knocking on the door. What if the murderer was still inside? Gomen kudasai! House cleaning! Housekeeping!
そう？
警察もいないし、この階じゃないのかもな。
Oh, what? flinched back at the sudden noise. Was that the sound of glass breaking?
隣からだったよな。
She was clinging to my back in surprise with her hands on my shoulders.
多分奥でしょ。
Oh, so y'all were knocking on the wrong door? Serika pointed to the next room. We stood there for a moment. The violent sound must have scared her because Serika's easygoing mood had totally vanished. But we waited a while and nothing more happened. There were no voices or sounds of struggle. The hallway was the same as ever. But was I imagining it? Or was the hall a little darker than before? Yeah, just like when it looks to me like the image is moving, but to everyone else it looks normal. Like right now.
戻った方がいいか。
Serika didn't answer my question. She didn't seem afraid, but she had a serious look on her face as she stared down the hallway. Maybe something had happened and the killer was still there? No, wait. I needed to think about this rationally. There was an officer on the first floor who'd called for backup. Usually when a call came in, the police never went there alone. There was always one more. I'd found that out for myself during my reporting, so I was sure of it. So there had to be another officer at the scene. The killer couldn't just be hiding there. If there was any chance of that, the cop wouldn't have just told us to go back to our rooms. Did the killer break the glass during a struggle? No, that didn't make any sense either. If there was any chance of them being able to do that, would that officer have gone downstairs? He'd probably gone there to tell the front desk not to let anyone else in. I had no proof, but it should be okay. More than anything, I hadn't taken any photos yet. What? Yeah! I jumped literally when I heard the sudden sound. It was a very strange sound, one that didn't belong here at all. I looked and saw that Serika had gotten so nervous that she'd taken out her Ghetto Froggy Geroro strap. Ghetto Froggy Geroro strap and started to play with it. She probably didn't even notice she was doing it. I softly poked her with my elbow. I motioned for her to keep quiet, and she seemed confused. But then she realized what she was doing and quickly put the strap back in her pocket. As soon as she was done, I looked down the hall once more, all the way to the front of the room. We should head there. I tried to steel myself, then looked over my shoulder once more to make sure no one else was there. I started to walk forward very carefully. I was afraid of making even the slightest sound. Serika followed me wordlessly with her hand on my shoulder. I grabbed her hand with my free hand. The other was holding my smartphone. My smartphone. She squeezed it tight. Smaho. The feeling of her hand kept me strong as I walked forward. The next room. Room 305, the room at the far end of the hallway. Just like room 306, it had a plain old door, but it felt like it was exuding an intense pressure.
ここからだよね。
She was asking about the sound.
多分な。
I answered, despite not having any proof at all. We waited, but still heard nothing. I looked around once more to make sure no one was there, then put my ear up against the door. And then I heard a small sound. It was the sound that I had heard outside, the sound from the windows, like a music box playing. It was relaxed and peaceful, even if we weren't, and played the same tune over and over.
この部屋だ。窓が開いていた部屋。
Serika was looking at me.
開く？
No, that's... I hesitated, but she put her hand on the doorknob. Oh!
ダメ。
Nope. She seemed relieved, but a little upset. I knew exactly how she felt. I felt the same way. I moved away from the door. I would have liked to take some photos before I left, but... That's weird. That's creepy. Let's go home. Nope. Just go back.
今鍵の音しなかった？
Shouldn't be here. No, no, no. Go back. Yeah, that's what it sounded like. We were too confused to move. There was no sign of anyone coming out. I slowly touched the doorknob. It turned. The door was unlocked. How? That noise? Totally me right now. Oh! As if guided by all the strange things that were happening, I pushed the record button. Oh, the good old classic record button on my smartphone. I gripped the doorknob tighter. A voice in my mind told me to stop, to go back, but it was wiped out by the sound of the smartphone recording starting and the door slowly opening. The more it opened, the less I was able to ignore my curiosity. It felt like something besides Sedika was pushing me forward as I opened the door. That song was playing in the dimly lit room. All the lights were off, but the sun outside was streaming through the open window. Its light was very weak. The curtain in front of me, which partitioned off a part of the room, was blocking the light. I gulped and realized my lips were dry. I ran my tongue over them to wet them a little, and then I realized my heart was pounding. The sound was so loud, I thought my heart might have somehow moved up into my ears. It seemed to be beating out some bizarre rhythm, and it was making me sick. I forced myself to swallow my saliva and hoped it would keep me from throwing up. Then I took a slow step forward. I held up my phone to record what I was seeing, and then I realized something. That curtain wasn't partitioning the room. It was a bed. There was a raised spot off the floor with a circular bed surrounded by a curtain. The light was streaming out from behind it. The windows we'd seen were on the other side of it, and the song seemed to be coming from there as well. Crap, it was too dark. I went to flip the nearby light switch, then forced myself to stop. No. I couldn't touch anything in the room. Some kind of crime must have taken place here. But I was scared to go any deeper into the darkness. My shoes made my steps sound loud against the floor. There was no response, only the relaxed melody. Melody Wisp? Melody's nuts? I gave a signal to Sedika, who was still behind me, and went deeper into the room. What? For a moment, I just...
なんか金属がきしむ音みたいな。
It felt like I was hearing it between the gaps in the music box melody. But there was no change that I could see. No one jumped out. Nothing was moving. There was just the sound of the music box. I looked from one part of the room to another to make sure nothing was amiss. And then, slowly moved forward. Someone was lying on the floor. When my eyes adjusted to the gloom, I saw a police officer and a woman. The officer was lying up against the bathroom with his legs splayed and his head drooping. The girl was lying on the floor face down. They showed no sign of noticing us. No, that wasn't right. The glass behind them was shattered into 1,000 pieces.
やばい。
The second I understood what was going on, my hand holding the smartphone started to shake. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. I could see a little blood dripping from the police officer's hands. I spun around as I heard the sound. The warmth drained from my face in an instant and my whole body shivered. Someone's sitting on the bed. I staggered back and slammed into Sedika.
逃げよう。早く。
But I couldn't move. My hand was frozen as I pointed out as it pointed the smartphone toward whoever was behind the curtain, and it wasn't doing what I told it to. Damn it! I took a step back, tripped, and then fell to the floor. My lungs weren't working right. The silhouette moved a little, and I flinched. No, it didn't move. The bed was rotating. Whoever was behind the curtain showed no sign of noticing us. They didn't budge an inch. Setika's voice sounded like it was far away. I ran back to the entrance and slammed myself into the door. It's not opening! It's not opening! Setika yelled back at me. Setika screamed as she slammed against the door. I helped her try to batter it down. This is one strong door. What the fuck? 2 people and it won't? Damn. But it didn't work. It was like trying to batter down a wall. Oh no, it's the knocking! Suddenly, I heard a knock at the door. I reflexively jumped away without thinking. It was coming from behind this door. The knocking was rhythmic and constant. It was just a knock at the door, but my whole body started to shake. Someone was on the other side of the door. Someone was knocking. It definitely wasn't the police. I felt as if my sanity was boiling away, melting out from the soles of my feet on upward. Don't open that door. Right. Go out the back. I grabbed Setika's hand and ran to the back of the room. What? Why is... Who? Okay. What prankster did this? Someone in the room moves the curtain? Who did it? Come out. Funny joke, but I don't like it. And fell silent at what I saw. I'm falling silent. And I haven't seen anything. I don't want to see it. Fuck. What is that? Yeah, what is that? The curtain was open. Ah! There was a man there sitting. No, he was moving slowly. The bed was moving in time to the sound of the music box. An eerie sound came from the wire wrapped around his neck. Ah! Ah! The wire was hanging down from the ceiling, choking him. His face was all puffed up and it was a color I'd never seen before. His pants were wet and the stain extended to the bed itself. The smell of piss and shit hung in my nose. He wasn't alive, he was dead. We got an ad. Why was he dead? Did he suffocate? Why was the curtain open? And what the hell was he doing? Why was he dead? My right hand moves without me realizing it. I need to... Oh! I gotta get this! I've gotta get this, really cool video. I needed to use the window to escape, but I pointed my phone's camera at the body instead. Are you using you using the phone camera to try and distance yourself away from what you're seeing? The body spun slowly. Each time it went around, the wire made an awful sound and dug deeper into his neck. Ah! It had dug in so deep by now that the man's neck was the size of my wrist. The skin must have been broken because it was bleeding a little. Teddy goes right next to me, but her voice sounded far away, like she was talking through a telephone. I needed to get out of here, but I couldn't stop the filming. Why was I doing this? Why was he dead? The wire dug deeper and deeper into his neck without waiting for me to come up with an answer. The body turned away from me. I could see the back of his neck. The flesh around the wire was swollen red and black. I heard a muffled sound like something hard snapping instead of a bag. The head slumped just a little. Ooh! Ah! His neck had just broken. That must have been the sound of his neck breaking. I could hear Serika's voice. Get out of here! Get out of here! Ah! My body moved as I heard another sound. I spun around. Ah! Ah! Fuck! She fucking scared me, bitch! Fuck you! Why'd you do that? Why'd you jump scare me? Give this voice actor an Oscar. What a good scream. I screamed. Ah! Ah! And then I heard something from behind me. Oh! I don't know what I did, but the next thing I knew... Ah! My whole field of vision had turned red. Then I felt something like a ball hit me. Before I could understand what it was, everything faded to black. Please, please, please. September 30th, 2015, Wednesday. midnight. Thank fucking God, it's over. Thank God. Ah. I hated that. Woo! Okay. Let me just drink some water. Now, time to move on.
新庄さん、所持品と防犯カメラの映像から親族に裏取れました。死亡したのは柿田博則22歳。渋谷在住のフリーターで更新でマーケティングのアルバイトをしていたようです。
Ah, アルバイト。SafeWorks. Fictional. A venture capital company located in Shibuya that participated in the post-earthquake reconstruction business. SafeWorks is known for investing an incredibly large amount of money in order to monopolize the construction companies involved in the reconstruction. Following this, they have moved on to other projects involving the introduction of new infrastructure, such as the proposal, development, and installment of high-power security cameras around the city for the sake of maintaining public order. They have also made humongous efforts in supplying business models and partnership opportunities to various nonprofits and volunteer groups, as well as helping establish self-sufficient communities among the survivors. As a result of their actions, their profits have skyrocketed. However, despite the company's assistance, some earthquake survivors and other local residents claim that SafeWorks is a cruel, tyrannical company that does not hesitate to use evictions and eminent domain to forcibly seize any property they want in the name of reconstruction. Ah, damn. I don't doubt it. That sucks.
更新でバイト？恋人は？
いません。同居人もなし。一人暮らしだったようです。
くそ。
Shinjo cursed. He was single and not in a relationship. If he was single and not in a relationship, it would take time to figure out his private life. And SafeWorks was one of the companies that have profited the most from the recovery projects in recent years. Part-timer or not, if he worked there, he was probably pretty busy. It's possible that his co-workers knew just his name and nothing else about who he was outside of work.
新庄さん、マスコミへの対応どうしますか？海洋見テレビやニコニアのネット記者が引き下がらなくて。
Considering the last two people murdered had superpowers, this dude probably has a superpower too.
それから現場にいた例の子たちですが、壁表の新聞部と言っていた2人、状態は落ち着いたみたいなんですが、やはりところどころ要領を得ません。もう一人の女の子も身元を示すものを何も持っていなく、柿田の交友関係、親戚筋から洗っていますが、まだ当たりません。こっちは。
あと、先ほど検視の方から問い合わせが。
待て、勝手に。
ニコニアニュースの渡部です。すいません。一体何が起こって。
出て行け、許可なく入るな。
一言お願いします。
Shinjo's men physically dragged the reporter out of the room. He had to stop himself from putting his hands to his head and moaning. His heads to his hands. He couldn't let his men see him acting weak. Shinjo had been with Police HQ Section 1 for less than 7 years. He didn't get along with his superiors, but he managed to beg his way into being in charge of this case. Maybe this was his way of avenging the death of an older detective who he'd admired.
窓枠の鑑識が終わったらすぐに外から見えないようにしといてくれ。あのネット記者は最近何するかわからん。
はい。
検視は俺が直接対応する。それから会社の仕事周りへの人数を増やしてくれ。上には後で俺から言っておく。
はい。それで例の子たちは。
それも俺が持つ。じゃ、よろしく頼む。
はい。
His men raced out of the room. They'd never had a case like this before, and they were probably pretty excited. So was Shinjo, to be honest. The whole thing was such a mess that he didn't even know where to begin, but his detective's instincts were screaming at him to start doing the work needed to find the killer.
よし。
はい、信用調査会社フリージアでございます。
Oh, Frasier Credit Bureau! That was in the last game too! His call was answered on the first ring, like always.
俺です。
あら、新庄ちゃん、遅かったわね。もうちょっと早く連絡が来ると思ってたけど。
She was also in Chaos Head Noah.
すいません。
Shinjo apologized without thinking and for no clear reason. He always felt like a naughty child when he spoke to the CEO, who happened to be a woman.
現場の面倒をちゃんと見てるから苦労すんのよ。少しはあの人みたいにチャランポランで行きなさいな。
先輩の性格まで見習うつもりはありませんよ。
真面目だわね。いつまでも真面目が美徳だと思ってると痛い目見るわよ。
百瀬さん、そんなことより相談したいことがあるんです。
Shinjo cut her off before she could continue her lecture and gave her a brief description of the scene. This was a violation of the rules, but the only way to solve a crazy case was to be a little crazy yourself. That was the first thing he'd learned from that older detective.
それって殺人なの？自殺なの
Momose asked her question after he described the situation. She cut to the heart of the problem.
現状ではそれがわからないんです。
The hotel had gotten suspicious when Kakita had never come down after checkup time. When more than 10 calls to the room went unanswered, they could contact the police. 2 officers, as well as someone from the hotel, had gone to the room where they found the body and an unconscious girl. One officer stayed at the scene to keep it secure, and the other searched the hotel to make sure it was safe. During the search, he'd forgotten to lock the employee entrance in the back near the stairs. That was how the 2 students from Hekiko had gotten in. Shortly after he'd left the room, the girl woke up and started strangling the officer who stayed behind. He'd hit his head on the edge of the glass window and knocked himself out. He was going to be fine, but he'd been out cold until backup arrived. When the backup got there, they found the girl unconscious on the floor. A boy from Hekiko had passed it on the floor too. The other girl from Hekiko was throwing up, also on the floor. Kakita's... Whoops! My voice broke. Kakita's cause of death was asphyxia via strangulation. The wire around his neck was a kind used to construction sites. It had been hung in an X pattern from the lights on the ceiling. And he'd been sitting on the bed as it rotated. That's why there was so much pressure on his neck that finally his head had been severed. From the estimated time of death, Kakita had passed away before the police had even been contacted. The body on the bed kept spinning in time to the music, one rotation every 2 minutes. In the end, the man's head had been cut off completely. The problem was the girl in the room. There was no indication that she'd ever touched Kakita. There were no fingerprints or other signs that she'd touched Kakita's bed, Kakita's body, the bed, or the wire. The only things they'd found under her fingernails were skin and blood from the officer she'd strangled. In fact, there was no indication she touched much of anything in the room. Everything they found belonged to Kakita. And according to the officer she strangled, when she attacked him, she had clearly been in an unstable psychological state. Her eyes had been bloodshot and out of focus. Not just bloodshot, but she was crying blood.
女の子はカキタって男が死ぬのを黙って見ていて、部屋の中のものにほとんど触れず、混濁した意識のまま警官に襲いかかって首を絞めたと。
Shinjo scratched his head as he heard some of the situation. That was what it looked like, at least from what they knew right now. And just going by that, it sure looked like a suicide. But it was all far too strange.
なるほど。厄介だわね。現場に入り込んだっていう壁砲の子たちは？
ショックが大きかったようで、最初は何も喋らなかったんですが、今は少しずつ話し始めています。ですが、いろいろと問題のある壁砲の子ですから。
He checked with the school and verified that they were part of the school's newspaper club. The security camera at the rear entrance had seen them coming in, which matched up with their testimony. But he didn't know what to make of their testimony that the door had opened on its own, or that someone else had tried to come into the room. The door was equipped with an automatic lock, and the only person inside the room who could have opened it was that girl. But there was no sign of her fingerprints on the door, and the security camera in the hallway showed no signs of anyone else trying to go in. In any event, it was extremely rare for a civilian to see a dead body outside of a funeral. And in an unstable mental state, it would be extremely easy for them to imagine things, or just outright be mistaken by what was going on. If they turned out to not have any relationship to Kakita or the girl, he planned to let them off with a stern warning.
結局のところ、一番大きな手がかりは部屋に潜んでいたその子なんですが、何も
そのままだと非感知よね。
はい。そうなると大幅に捜査が遅れることになるので、そうしたくないんです。
わかったわ。ちょっと情報を回させてちょうだい。多分新庄ちゃんの立場的に無理してもらうことになるから覚悟はしといてね。3分後にこっちからかけ直すから。
あ、助かります。よろしくお願いします。
Shinjo went to hang up the phone.
ちょっと。
はい。
そういえばお願いがあるのよ。絶対に新庄ちゃんのためにもなることなんだけど、 聞いてくれないかしら。
So it was basically an order then, Shinjo thought to himself.
何ですか？
この件に関して私より詳しいうちの子が一人いるのよ。それで今回の現場を直接見たいって言ってるんだけど、お願いできない？
部外者を現場に？
いつだって物事を解決するヒントを与えるのは部外者よ。
After all, I'm an outsider too, she continued. God? Become. In his head, Shinjo went over the steps he'd have to take and the time required to take them.
明日、いや、明後日で構いませんか？
さすが新庄ちゃん、話せるじゃない。よくそれで堅物揃いの捜査一課に残れてるわね。
ではよろしくお願いします。
あ、ちょっと新庄ちゃん。
He barely stopped himself from ending the call.
まだ何か？
念のためアドバイスをしとこうと思って2つね。言っておくけど、さっきのは冗談じゃないのよ。
は？
チャランポランで行きなさいっていうやつよ。これから間違いなく新庄ちゃんの理解の外にある事件が続くわよ。その時一番邪魔になるのは常識だから気をつけな。
肝に銘じます。
そこで真面目に返事しているようではまだまだね。もう一つはね。
Momose paused for a second and chuckled.
うちの子に取って食われないようにね。油断してると新庄ちゃんが部外者になりかけないわよ。
September 30th, 2015, Wednesday. Same day.
スイポ見た？
Tweebo!
壁砲ボットのネタ画像でしょ。でっかいウーパがドヤ顔して光るように座って渋谷も変わったとか言ってる。
Hikiko bought. Oh, Upa first. Fictional, a ball-shaped mascot character from the popular manga Dainet Kakeru, which began running in local comics in 2016. 2006. The later anime adaptation only served to increase the character's popularity, with large amounts of stuffed animals and other related merchandise being produced as a result. Hikiko bought. Fictional, a Tweeple account followed by over 80% of Hikiko Academy students. The account is popular for its variety of tweets, which include funny memes, news about discounts at cafes and restaurants near Hikiko, school rumors, and other things of interest to the student body. Despite the word bot designating an automated posting program in its name, it doesn't post at regular times and its posts vary in content, so it is said to be an actual account run by someone at the school. Oh, whoops! I'm accidentally taking screenshots. That is very weird. This would be like Google just sending out reporters. Hello, I'm from YouTube News.
そうそう、めっちゃ切なそうなの。あれさ、文化祭で使うね。渋谷復興の歴史の展示なんてどうせ誰も見ねえじゃん。
画像だけじゃ弱くない？なんかぬいぐるみとか実際に置かないと。
The male student started to search through Shibuya's stores with his smartphone. He must have found something strange because he kept mumbling, "No way!" Ito was recording the newspaper club's project for the festival, a bunch of random footage of the preparations in the cafeteria.
そんなもんで盛り上がってる場合かっての。
A body had just been found. A body has been discovered in Dogenzaka yesterday, and all these students cared about was their stupid jokes. Yeah, dude. Because they're high school students. Maybe you should act like one. The body was found less than 10 minutes away from the school, but they barely even mentioned it.
ま、確かにまだ大掛かりには報道されてないけどさ。
That doesn't mean that they'll be talking about it. It's just, it sucks, but they're also high school students. They have other things to worry about. The first reports had been on a major communications company's website. That was where Ito had seen it. It had been last night. It had made the morning news in the morning papers, but all that had been reported was that a body had been found and that no details were known. And it was rare for a high school kid to check the TV news and papers every day. There was no word from Miyashiro. Ito was really worried about what had happened at the Love Hotel, but he had no way of asking about it. He took out his phone even though he knew he hadn't gotten any calls. Sure enough, there were no messages. He'd been doing that a lot since yesterday. He couldn't bring himself to make a call. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say to a friend who'd been taken away by the police. The laughing students irritated Ito in a way that he didn't really understand. He'd been planning on videotaping the entire cafeteria today, but instead he gave up and left.
撮影お疲れ様。
He went inside the club room and saw Kurisu was there.
連絡は
Kurisu's expression clouded over for a moment as she shook her head.
あれからは何も。
そっか。
Wakui, the club advisor, had told him that Kurisu had taken a change of clothes from Miyashiro to the police station last night. She'd been told that neither Miyashiro nor Onoe were hurt. The police were probably going to let them off with a warning, and if they weren't suffering any after effects from the trauma, they'd be let go in the morning. But school was over. It was almost evening and there was still no word from either of them. Ito dropped into his chair.
たく、学校のみんなは平和なもんだよ。昨日のことなんてほとんど誰も話してないんだぞ。
そう。
そりゃあ東京じゃ発表されてるだけでほぼ1週間に2人のペースで誰かが殺されてるんだから、変死体があったってだけじゃ別に真新しくもないけどさ。にしたってな、道玄坂なんてもろ近所じゃん。下手したらそこを通って登校してるやつもいるかもしれないってのに。つかいるだろ、うちなら。あれかな、あいつがいつも言ってるみたいに社会に関するニュースを載せてるサイトとかにアクセスしないやつばっかりなのかな。
わかりやすいね。
Kurisu chuckled.
え？
心配なんでしょ、二人のこと。
Ito started to speak, but then choked it back.
別に副部長こそ心配なんじゃないの？
Ridiculous, she chuckled.
怒ってる。処置なしだもの。セリカはともかくとしてね。忠告も聞かずに突っ込んで無茶するからこんなことになる。伊藤君にも新聞部の文化祭の映像押し付けることになるし。
いや別にそれは大したことないからいいんだけどさ。
ダメ。与えられた役割はきっちりこなすのが当たり前でしょ。
ここか。クルス、予算の件どうなってる？
Kawahara appeared. He was very out of breath.
予算？
超過した予算をまとめたやつ。経理がまだかって。
Kurisu frowned as she realized her mistake.
ごめん。すぐにメールでまとめて送るから。
なるはやで担当の教師が帰っちゃう前に。
Kawahara ran off before Kurisu had time to answer. And before he was even out of sight, Kurisu had booted up the PC and started tapping at the keys.
何？
いや 別に。
Which of us is more transparent? That's what Ito was about to say before he stopped himself. Normally, it was impossible to imagine Kurusu not doing her job. For a while after that, Kurusu focused intently on her work. Ito didn't have much else to do, so he watched her. When he looked carefully, he could see small dark circles under her eyes. She probably hadn't slept. And then Ito realized, for the first time, that Kurusu had probably come to the clubroom to see if either of them had contacted him. With all the preparations that were going on, there was no other reason for her to be here.
なんとまあ、あの女帝がね。
Kurusu pressed down hard on one final key as she finished her task. Then suddenly, an unpleasant sound filled the room.
なあ。
わかってる。
They looked over and saw that Kazuki was nibbling on dried squid as she played her game, oblivious to everything around her. Ito had seen her come in after Kurusu had started her work. He thought she might say hello, but knowing her, probably not. He'd also seen her start to play her game. He'd been trying not to bring it up, but that was clearly impossible now. She must have been concentrating pretty hard. Her gaze was constant and steady. Ito
こいつ
sighed.
はいつでもマイペースだな。他人に興味がないのかね。
そんなわけないでしょ。この子は他の人よりほんの少しだけ自分が強いの。
にしたってよ。
She's in the same club as them, he started to say, but Kurusu stopped him with a raised hand. She looks at Kazuki's game screen.
そうでもなかったみたい。
Kurusu chuckled and took off Kazuki's headphones.
カズキ、私はゲームやらないから詳しいことはわからないけど。この家の壁に向かって延々と火の玉出してるのは何か意味があるの？
Kazuki looked back at the screen with a stunned expression on her face. She yanked the headphones out of Kurusu's hands and quickly put them on, then started to pound at the keyboard.
落ち着きなさい。というかその煩わしいスルメ飲み込むか出すかしなさい。行儀悪。
She froze, like a toy whose batteries had run out. The squid she'd been chewing fell out of her mouth and landed on the desk. She stared at it for almost 30 seconds as if something impossible had just happened. Then she suddenly stood up and staggered over to the shelf where the electric coffee maker was kept, her mannerism rivaling that of an incredibly fierce drunkard. Her face had turned pale.
カズキ、大丈夫か？コーヒー入れてくれるのか？
Kazuki nodded in response to Ito's second question and started to make coffee with shaking hands. She made Kurusu her usual with 2 cubes of sugar and gave Ito a coffee mix with milk. Then she made a cup for herself black, but didn't drink a drop. Her forehead slanted to the desk with a thud, and she became so quiet that it was almost impossible to tell if she was breathing. Kurusu looked to Ito for agreement as she cleaned up Kazuki's squid.
いや、そうか？
He took a sip from his coffee, not sure what to think. To him, none of this made any sense. Kurusu didn't say another word as she drank her coffee. Ito looked up at the blank ceiling and decided that this was as good a time as any to ask. It wasn't that it was wrong, but it still felt kind of awkward.
あのさ、
何？
あいつがこんなに事件に入れ込んでるのって何か理由があんの？
She lowered her gaze as as if searching for answers in a coffee cup.
伊藤君こそずいぶん事件に対して熱心じゃない？
She seemed to be trying to change the subject.
俺はこういうのが好きな人だから。
こういうの？
猟奇的な事件。でも昨日みたいに現場に忍び込むっていうのは。
That was going too far, he continued. Kurusu silently took another sip of her coffee. She seemed to be staring at a single point in the distance, lost in thought. It was clear that while she was seeing the things around her, she wasn't paying any attention to any of them. Seeing her like this scared Ito a little. Was it really that big a deal?
別に言いたくなければ。
そういうわけじゃない。きっと基本的には伊藤君と同じ。タクルも好きだもの、こういうの。それに危なっかしいところに首を突っ込みたがるのも昔からだし。
I see, Thor
小
said.
学校からだっけ？あいつが副部長と一緒に暮らすようになったの。
ええ。正確には被災して少し経ってからだから、中学生に上がるか上がらないかの時だけど。
Kurusu and Miyashiro were both what people called earthquake orphans. They'd both been in 6th grade when they'd lost their parents to the earthquake. Since they had no relatives to take them in, they'd been sent to the same orphanage, a group home known as Aoba Dormitory. Kids like them weren't common in Shibuya these days, but they weren't exactly rare either. Miyashiro had been so badly injured during the earthquake that he'd become comatose. He was still in that coma when he arrived at the dorms. The head of the dorm was also the head doctor at the Aoba clinic downstairs, and so for a while, that was where Miyashiro was kept. Kurusu had taken care of literally all his needs. There were 4 kids at the facility. Kurusu and Miyashiro were the oldest. Since her birthday was earlier than his, she dubbed herself the oldest of the 4 siblings and volunteered to take care of the other 3. Even back then, Miyashiro had a habit of being curious and getting into trouble.
だいたい天の弱だしね。みんなとは違うってよく言ってるでしょ。そんなことはないのに。
She spoke like a parent worried for her child's future.
でも結局あの子は。
お疲れ様。おや、クルス君も来てたのか。
先生、連絡があったんですか？
The club advisor, Wakui, was quite relaxed as he came into the room. Kurusu quickly stood up and rushed over to him. He nodded and motioned for her to calm down.
ついさっきね。
大丈夫そうでしたか？
それはもちろん。ほら、伊藤君、すぐに体育館に行きなさい。
体育館？なんで？
軽音部が今からリハーサルをするって。いい文化祭の記録になるんじゃないかな。
Kurusu's expression froze. And suddenly it changed.
涌井先生？連絡ってそれですか？
そうだよ。って、なんだいクルス君、機嫌がいいね。
Does she look happy?
あら、先生には機嫌がいいように見えますか？
行ってくる。先生も行こ
う。ちょっと。
Sensing a gathering storm of violence, Ito pushed Wakui at the door. Wakui. Katsukiya looked up for a moment, but then she slammed her head back on the desk. Now that she was all alone, Kurusu took out her phone and checked it. There was no message, of course. He sighed and looked at the board. That incident yesterday at the Love Hotel. Waku waku. Whether it was murder or suicide, from the way Miyashiro and Onoe had looked when they'd been taken by the police, something had happened. Miyashiro had said it had something to do with the incident 6 years ago. Now that it had happened 3 times, there was no ignoring it. No, it was too dangerous. She couldn't let him get any more involved in this. She thought back to Ito's question about why Miyashiro was so interested in this case. Kazuki was still lying with her head on the desk. When she turned her head to the side, she looked like she was enjoying herself for some reason. When Kurusu saw that, she suddenly lost her desire to drink the coffee. Apologizing in her mind to Kazuki, she decided to pour it out at the water fountain. The water fountain? Why? She headed to the water fountain upstairs, which was usually less crowded. Quack! She found herself looking down at the gaps between the tiles as the sound of her footsteps rang in her ears. She could tell that she was walking slower than usual. Essentially, Kurusu was lonely. She remembered what she'd said to Miyashiro the day he first woke up in the clinic.
Kurusu, Mama. 名前で呼んで。家族なのに名字で呼び合うのはおかしいでしょ?
In the end,
あの子は特別が気取りたいだけなんだから。
he knew why, she supposed. The event that had caused him to leave the dorm was still bothering him. November 7th, 2009. I wanted water. I could still feel the sensation of the dead woman I'd touched when I'd fallen on my hands. I wanted to wash it off. I wanted to wash my face, too. The wind from the flames had blown something small into my eye and it itched badly. I was thirsty, too. Sarika was on my back and she showed no signs of waking up. My legs were at their limits, so I forced my way through the crowd and sat down on a tire that had rolled nearby. It smelled like burning rubber. I didn't have the energy to apologize to the people I ran into, and they didn't have the energy left to complain. I slowly brought Sarika to rest on my knees and looked around. I saw an orange light. The light of the fires reflected off of many things. It was pretty, I thought, before I realized how inappropriate that was. For some reason, I started to count the bodies in the ground, not knowing if they were alive or dead. But in less than 5 seconds, I'd gone way over 10 and realized how futile it was. I stopped. Shibuya Station was utterly destroyed. The 107 building, which was only a few minutes away by foot, was ruined as well. 5 whole hours after the earthquake, the chaos had only increased. There were fewer people out walking, but I wasn't sure if that was because they'd reached safety or because they'd collapsed from exhaustion. I saw someone carrying his own severed arm in a convenience store bag. I saw people ignore a barefoot woman as she cradled a baby whose head was smashed in. Some had outright given up on insanity and were flinging things into the fire. A group of middle-aged businessmen were dragging a young girl into the darkness. A young man went to join them. That's disgusting. Why? Why was that happening? That's nasty. No. That is Jigoku. What the fuck? There was no other way to describe it. This was hell. Sarika moaned a little in my lap. I slapped her cheeks to wake her up.
Onoe.
Her face warped in agony. It was okay. She was breathing. She was okay.
これから代々木に向かうから。ほら、あの大きい総合病院。覚えてるだろう。昔冒険しに忍び込んだあそこだよ。
Instead of answering, she just moved her eyebrows a little. I swore and lifted her back on my back again. She didn't seem to be that badly hurt, but this kept happening. I read on Twipo that the general hospital in front of Yoyogi Station was accepting patients injured in the earthquake. I didn't know that it was true, but I had no choice but to go. It had to be better than the hell that Shibuya is now.
死ぬなよ。
I yelled, unsure if Serika could even hear me, and started walking. I just needed to get to the hospital. Ah! The fuck was that? That was a sound effect from the first game too. I leapt up. I quickly glanced to the left and right as I tried to calm my racing heart. I saw that I was in my own bed. I felt exhausted. I also felt really thirsty. Maybe it was because I'd had the dream again. I searched around until I found the bottle of water by my bedside, took a gulp, and then grabbed the phone off my bed to check the time.
0時17分。もう日付変わってるのか。
It was around noon when the police had let me go from Shibuya Station with a warning. I'd gone home and went straight to bed, so it seemed I had been out for more than 12 hours. This was no good. Maybe I'd slept too long, or maybe I hadn't slept enough because my head felt like it was filled with lead.
いや、違うか。
I put my hands up to the thin light that was coming through the window and checked their color. They were the same as always. There was no blood on them. Ah! I suddenly felt like I wanted to throw up. I hoped another drink of water would help, but it didn't. I thought for a moment and then decided to turn on the room lights. I turned on my laptop. I ran a search for foods or drinks that help with nausea. Oh, my search history has just popped up. You'll want ginger, bland foods, sit in a cool room, setting up is okay, distract yourself. Those are all good things to do when you're struggling with nausea. They're gonna give me page after page of results. I checked a bunch of pages just like you're supposed to do when you're looking something up. Yeah. You know, interestingly, I read that Google has actually made it so that when you click on, when you like search for stuff, it just actually just replaces what you searched with like an ad. And that's why the search results are really bad nowadays. Well, that's one of many reasons, but it's like shitty. So not even like the first like several links of results are good. I looked into the sink until I found the kakonto powder, and poured it into a cup and added some hot water from the electric kettle. It had a strange smell, unlike anything I was used to. I took a sip. I could tell that my hands were shaking a little as I held the cup. Damn it. That wasn't the first time I'd seen a body. I checked the phone again and saw that there were several messages from Serika and Kurusu. I was about to respond, but stopped. They were probably still up, but I didn't feel like talking to anyone. It felt like the air I'd breathed in at the Love Hotel yesterday was still deep inside me. Along with the cheerful melody of the music box and the red that covered my vision. I felt something strange on my cheek and put a hand up to feel it. It was a bandage. I'd gone to some kind of clinic at the police station where they'd put it on. They told me I must have hit my face hard on the floor when I'd passed out. I was unlucky enough to scrape my cheek against a piece of the shattered glass. Thankfully, it wasn't a big wound. It barely hurt at all. But it itched like hell. And each time it itched, the shock I'd felt back then came rushing back and my heart would start racing. The danger was long gone, but I still couldn't forget the terror. Had I almost been caught up in something horrible? No. I'm fine. I'm fine, right? I'm not like everyone else. I'm not an amateur. I went through that hell I just dreamed about and survived. Maybe having that nightmare again was good for me. I managed to force down the urge to vomit, then clicked away at the computer. I opened my computer's TV program, changed the channel to a news program, and watched on my monitor. A few months ago, I had bought a USB TV tuner off a homeless guy who had no idea what it was worth. All it cost me was dinner at a local restaurant. Just like I thought, there was an article about the events of 2 days ago. HKK News. All they said was that a man's body was found in Dogenzaka. They didn't say whether it was suicide, murder, or just an accident. There was nothing about the girl who'd been found at the scene. More about me and Serika. I see. I'd never experienced for myself the gap between what happened at a crime scene and what was reported on TV, but it didn't really surprise me. These days, the internet was a lot faster at reporting things than TV. The people who followed the news online, TV wasn't a place to learn new things. It was where you went to see if something you'd heard about was so important that it was getting TV coverage. I closed the TV program and opened a browser. I opened up 4chan. Nikonia News had something on it too. I clicked on the uploaded video.
渋谷でまた事件です。最近の渋谷では今回の件と合わせて3つの物騒な事件が発生しているんですが。
Just like always, it was Watabe, the attention-seeking internet reporter. He was famous for charging into crime scenes to get scoops. Lately, he seemed to be getting a little too cocky. He explained what had gone on at the Love Hotel as the video showed pictures that he had probably taken himself.
いずれにせよ、警察は何か隠していると思います。ただ変死体を発見したとしか発表がなされていませんが、それにしては。
And then, like always, he started to mix in his own subjective opinions with the news. He was right, the police were hiding something, but there was little point in listening to the rest of this. Vague information would just get in my way. I mostly ignore Watabe's voice as I looked at the video on the screen. He must have gotten it by charging into the hotel room. I thought back to what had happened. A man was strangled to death in his room. There was an unconscious girl and a police officer there as well. The girl was the most obvious suspect. Even if she chose a strange way to do it, she must have been the one who killed him, right? No, if she had definitely killed him, then they would have announced that. She was arrested just like I was. Over 30 hours had passed. Even if they found out she was innocent, they should have announced that. The police believe that the girl with him may know something and are proceeding with their investigation. Like that. The police think that she didn't do it? Then what was she doing in that room? And even the police had told me during the interview that I imagined it, I knew what I heard. Someone else had visited that room and knocked on the door. The sound was eerie and always had the same rhythm. I felt a cold chill and idly turned toward the door. Oh! Is anyone up for a poll? I'll put it up. Putting up the poll. Poll is up for 1 minute to decide what we do next. No? No takers? I'll choose neither. Okay. My room was the same as always. There was no sign of anyone approaching it. I listened carefully to see if I could hear anything outside. Nothing.
だよな。気にしすぎだ。
Crap, that's right. It's a new day.
ネットの知識者はどうだ?
I quickly opened another site. Shibuya News. Ah! A new website to look at. Shibuya News, a program to bring you the latest in Shibuya News. I pray you spend tomorrow in a way you won't regret. The kitty petting experience on sale February 22nd, 2015. Bar Nobu, 1582 steps from Kyoto Station. It's your Okehazama will treat you GOOD. We shall teach you the secrets of mastering battle. Armor helmet set now only 1 ryo. Let's go diving in Okinawa's ocean. Just 1 bite will turn you into a pig. Even if you're on a diet, you won't be able to resist. It was always updated at midnight every day. The quality of the news and the reliability of its updates made it far more useful than TV or the mass market sites. Online news was way faster than TV, of course. Some sites were better than others. There's no end to the number of wrong-siders who would treat the net as a single entity that was the opposite of TV. The TV says one thing, but the internet says something different, they'd say. If you ask me, they were utter morons. These days, even a lot of the larger sites online aimed for the same mass market that the TV news did. It was critical that you found out for yourself which sites could really be trusted. Just like the name implied, Shibuya News dealt with the goings-on around Shibuya. It was similar enough to our newspaper club that everyone in the club knew about the site and used it regularly. Its owner, Kei-san, was, how should I put it, very skilled at getting and sharing information and seeing its effects. She carefully calculated when to send and when to receive information. A lot of websites effectively use Shibuya News as a parent page, linking to it constantly. Most of them were privately run news sites as well. As a result, a huge number of people saw the information that Kei-san spread. To put it more unkindly, Kei-san was manipulating them. Anytime Kei-san wrote about a popular shop among high school students in Shibuya or a free smartphone app, I would hear people at school talking about it within a few days. Take, for example, the Tweeple user that most of Hekiho Academy followed, Hekiho Bot. It described itself as a bot by Hekiho students for Hekiho students, but from the number of times it would show up on Shibuya News, my guess was that it was actually run by Kei-san. She was one of the few people I recognized as a right-sider. When something important was going on in Shibuya, first you check the TV shows to get the basics, then the mass market sites to see what the net was saying. Then you would go to Shibuya News for the latest information. This was the way the newspaper club, and myself specifically, would always look for information. The quality of the news wasn't the only reason that Shibuya News was popular. One reason was that Kei-san seemed to be a girl. When someone was thought to be a girl in real life, they got a lot more hits than someone who was thought to be a guy. And the other reason was... Whoa, Phantasm's still around in the game? Hold up. A gothic punk band that was popular in Shibuya around 2009. It is a group of 4, but only the names of the vocalist Fess and the guitarist Ro have been made public. Even in 2015, Phantasm still has some passionate fans. Phantasm was in the first game as well. This radio broadcast. Whenever there was something big she wanted to report on, she would always do an internet radio broadcast. It offered proof that she was a girl, and her voice was calm and soothing to the ear. A lot of people just listened to her broadcasts. The audio from the audio bleed case that I had played for Kurusu had actually been modified by Kei-san to be easier to understand. I chuckled a little. His glory hogging was a running joke among Niconia news viewers. I was startled. Crap, that's right. I'd forgotten after everything that happened at the Love Hotel. No way. In that second, the Tweeple stream that was linked to the broadcast lit up. It was overflowing with comments. She signed off in her usual way and the broadcast ended. She got me. That's right. My hypothesis was why I'd forced myself into the Love Hotel, and something had happened just like I thought. After 3 such incidents, it was only natural to assume that there might be a connection. A new generation madness. Was it going to happen again? I suddenly felt a pain in my cheek. I reached up and saw that blood was coming out from the side of the bandage. The cut must have opened. As I took care of it, the red blood on my finger stood out. Without warning, I felt a horrible sense of dread, like I was sinking into quicksand. Usually, I love to have a mystery to solve, but now that the case was definitely real, I hesitated. For the rest of that night, I wasn't able to do any more research about the case. Looks like we're on 4chan. Crime! Third death in Shibuya could mean serial killers on the loose. New generation. King George Shadow counter-revolutionary. Reproduction prohibited. The 3 suspicious deaths in Shibuya this month line up with the dates of the new generation madness. A 4th death is predicted to occur on 10/10. So, a Shibuya News 9:30 update. Okay, in 9 days. New generation madness! Holy shit. First! Seriously? Thread archived. Ah, yeah! Hell yes! It's happening, .gif. Somebody call me? Kisan is so smart. Oh man, I'm getting goosebumps. Whoa! It was real! How did no one notice? Summary of Kisan's podcast. The dates of the new generation incident 6 years ago match the 3 deaths so far. If the pattern continues, something will happen on 10/10. Group dive, don't look. Man-child, audio bleed. Crucifixion, love hotel incident. Vampire, question marks. Festival time! No time to eat. Yeah! Let the carnival of miracles begin! New gen! New gen! If this is true, isn't that scary as shit? I want to know more about the 3rd death. Was it as nasty as audio bleed? Kisan, you're so smart. Let's get married. Sonome. Dare no me. Okay. Going to read that one. I had the same feeling. I think this means another earthquake's coming. I went to see the Esper 6 years ago in front of the station. I was in college then. Now I'm unemployed and stay home all day. The fun's about to start again, huh? He went, that happened in the first game. I am not gonna talk about that, though. Shibuya's doomed. I'm Kisan's dad. This means they'll cancel the Restoration Festival. You guys make me sick. People are dead. What the fuck are you so happy about? Don't look! I call bullshit. I thought Kisan was smarter than this. I'm disappointed. It's been 6 years and it's time to drag this out again. It's the return of... Oh. Okay, let me try that again. Wait. It's been 6 years and it's time to drag this out again. It's a return of the new generation madness and I can't bear it. That was a horrible Monokuma. We're not going to talk about that. Oh, I'm accidentally taking screenshots again. October 1st, 2015. Thursday. The same time. Shibuya Police Station.
いい加減答えてくれないかな。名前と。
少女。
学生さん。それとも働いているのかな。
女性警察官。
あの柿田っていう男の人と何回もあのホテル行ってるよね。どういう知り合い？付き合ってたの？
Well, I still have some popcorn left. Let me eat it.
もし喋るのが嫌ならうなずくとか手を振るとか何でもいいからさ。ね？どうなの？
I have popcorn. The officer sank back into a chair in resignation. Shinjo could sympathize. He'd just come to check on her a moment ago, but they'd probably been doing this since yesterday. Locked in an interrogation room, cut off from the outside world, and questioned by multiple officers, most people would lose their cool. They start to wonder what effects their words were having and focus on every movement of the officer who was taking down notes. Even if it wasn't hot in the room, they start to sweat. Yeah, this is bad. This is a normal thing in Japan and it's bad. It's the same in the United States. Bad! Except person would be free to go, probably. And this person, the hold, I think it's like 24 to 48 hours in Japan. It's terrible. But this girl didn't respond at all. It probably wasn't because she was used to it. If she'd ever been interrogated before, the fingerprints they'd taken would have told them who she was.
新庄さん。
ん？
やはり連れて行った方が。
To a mental hospital, you mean? It made sense. The natural assumption was that the shock of the incident had incapacitated her. Shinjo nodded as if considering it.
捜索願いは?
This was the second day since the incident. If she had lived in a normal family environment, someone should have submitted a missing persons report by now.
洗いました。ですが当たりません。
Shinjo watched the girl as he listened to her talk, but the girl didn't move a muscle.
家庭のことを言外に含ませても動きなしか。
The normal ways weren't going to work then. She'd be sent to the hospital by dawn at this rate.
ご苦労さん。こっちで留置しておくからもういいよ。
The other officer couldn't hide her happiness as she left the room. Shinjo sat down in the chair she'd been sitting in and took a good look at the girl from the front. She was ignoring him and still looking down at the desk. She didn't even seem to notice or care that the person in front of her had changed. Shinjo remembered his conversation with Momose. After he'd hung up, she'd called back in precisely 3 minutes just like she'd promised. And then she said, "My kid has a message for you," is what she says.
それだけですか？どういう意味です？
いいからそう聞いてごらんなさい。それで今の新庄ちゃんのような反応をしたり、変わらず黙ったままだったりしたら残念だけど。アンチしか取る手段はないそうよ。もし別の反応をしたら、もう一度連絡をちょうだい。
The message didn't make much sense, but he didn't see any other way.
一つ聞きたいことがあるんだ。
There was no response, of course. He continued, uncertain if she was even hearing him.
君は持っているものに気づかれなかったのか、元から持っていないのか、どっちだ？
Her eyes moved. Instead of looking down at the desk, she was looking at Shinjo. Shinjo was surprised, but did his best to hide it.
どうなんだ？
The girl stared at him as she was trying to figure him out. And then a moment later,
誰なんですか？あなたは。
her words were quiet but sharp. It was the same tone of voice that Shinjo used when he was interrogating a suspect.
ここの刑事だ。君、名前は？
She seemed to be thinking about something as she stared at him. Her mannerisms were just like his own again. It was the same way a detective faced a criminal, trying to gain every scrap of information from what he could see. And then she slowly opened her mouth.
有村ひなえ。碧峰学園の学生です。
I just dropped something. I left the RV where I lived alone, and only then did I realize that it was evening. The sunlight must have been pouring into my room, but I hadn't noticed. I didn't really remember when I'd gone to sleep or when I'd woken up. I looked around and made sure that none of the scenery had changed, then walked up the steps in front of me. Miyashita Park was just a few minutes walk away from Shibuya Station. It was also known as Homeless Park. This was where I lived after I left the dorm. The first floor was a huge parking lot. And the second story had a futsal field and a climbing wall. It had been mostly abandoned during the recovery efforts after the Shibuya earthquake. After the earthquake, people who'd lost their family or had never had any family to begin with gathered here en masse. Mitake Park, which was right next door, was supposed to be the evacuation point for this area, but Miyashita had always been a mecca for the homeless, so everyone gathered here. When people gathered, so did many different things. Containers filled with food, blankets, and tents, even the trailer for an RV that was left behind when its owner fled Shibuya. Every part of the park was overhauled to create a place for people to live. The parking lot, the futsal field, the climbing wall, etc. And the next thing anyone knew, there was a society there that was big enough that the government couldn't force them out. Then some group of idiots came around to try and turn the place into a temporary housing. That was shot down in less than a month. As a result, even though you could find beautifully rebuilt skyscrapers just a street away, Miyashita Park became one of Japan's biggest slums, a place where those with no home would gather to stare up at the lights.
これいいですか?
I spoke to the man who sold newspapers, magazines, and everything else as I picked up a newspaper, which had today's date on it, October 1st.
お、タク、珍しいな新聞なんて。いいぞ、持ってけ。
いいんですか?
どうせ余るしな。それにほれ。
He showed me the snacks and alcohol at his feet. He must have sold a lot today. There were a lot of people in the park who had enough money that they could have stayed in a capsule hotel if they wanted to.
ああ、してんならできれば別のとこにな。ゴミにうるさくなってるからよ。
I thanked him and went to leave.
おいタク、電気代か。
はい。そうですけど。
ならついでに俺の分も頼む。南のまっちゃんからだっつって渡してくれ。
He handed me a 1,000 yen bill. I nodded, took it, and headed deeper into the park with my newspaper. Oh, so his name was Machan? Miyashita Park was divided into north and south halves by a road. If he said he was from the south, that must mean there was a Machan on the north side who I hadn't met yet. The administrative office on the south side. Just like the name implied, it was where all the administration was done for Miyashita Park. It kept things peaceful between the government and the park occupants, resolved disputes between the homeless, and maintained all the facilities at the park. I knew the woman there by her face, but not her name. I gave her the electric bill, which was due on the 1st of the month, along with Ma-chan's part. Life in the park might seem free and lawless from the outside, but was actually much stricter than you'd find in some families.
はいよ、確かに。はみ出たり、勝手に住み着こうとしているやつは? ホムレスの女性.
Everyone who lived in the outer room of the park, including me since I lived on the far side, had been asked by the management to keep an eye out for that.
大丈夫だと思います。
When I'd looked earlier, I hadn't seen anything changed around my place.
最近物騒だからね。気をつけなよ。見慣れない奴がいたらすぐに言いな。
え？
知ってんだろ？ラブホテルの事件とか。
はい、わかりました。
I was startled but quickly nodded. I suddenly felt like they were criticizing me for hiding something. The corridor that connected the north and south ends of the park. This place, which overlooked Meiji Dori, was the one part that hadn't really changed since before the earthquake. There were cracks here and there, but the government had forbidden people to put things here because it would ruin the view and might not be safe. I leaned up against the rail and spread open the newspaper with the setting sun shining down on me. There was a column on the front page about the Love Hotel incident, but no new information. There was nothing in the article about the girl who was found at the scene, or how this could be related to what happened 6 years ago. Had they not figured that out yet? Or maybe they had and they just weren't announcing it? If it had something to do with the incidents from 6 years ago, then so did Don't Look and Audio Bleed. Did that mean they weren't suicides? If the killer had driven them to suicide, then it was probably the same person behind 3 incidents. But was he working alone or part of a group? Or maybe people who were somehow related to the incidents from 6 years ago were killing themselves one after another. Maybe I should look at what the 3 cases had in common again. Oh! Damn it, what the hell? My hand went up to the new bandage on my cheek. I rubbed it several times to make sure that it was still there. I took out my smartphone. The data I'd recorded at the scene had been deleted by the police. I probably should have counted myself lucky they didn't take the phone itself. I'd lost my biggest clue to the case. Maybe this was just out of my league. Maybe it would be stupid to get involved. Suddenly, I got a call on my phone. I checked the name and hit the answer button.
はい。もしもし。
お主か。もう来ておるぞ。いつもの席じゃ。
どうも。
As always, the waitress's appearance and manners were a mystery to me. I bowed to her and went to my seat. Especially since these pigtails seem to be defying gravity. She must have the strongest hairspray in the world to keep this shit up. Must be hard as a rock, that hair. Sedika was there already, reading a manga. She was fiddling with her ghetto froggy cell phone strap without realizing it as usual. It really was a strange habit, and a nuisance to the people around her. Cafe LAX, the preferred hangout of the newspaper club, which is a 10-minute walk away from the Shibuya station. What does this say? So, thought it could be London. The owner was a manga fan and the walls were lined with many volumes. There was free Wi-Fi, the prices were good, and if it wasn't crowded, you could sit there for hours as long as you bought a single drink. The most important part was that since it was in a hard-to-find spot, barely anybody from Hekiho knew about it. So I didn't have to worry about running into anyone I knew. As usual, I still can't figure this out. As usual, there was barely anyone there. Just a single couple that appeared to be in college. I ordered my usual Mountain View and sat down.
何読んでるんだ？
ああ、タク。そう。なんだろうこれ。
は？
適当に撮ったから。
Sadika went and put the manga back on the shelf. They came and sat back down.
はい、これ制服。のんちゃんから言われてクリーニングしといたから。
悪いな。
I took the bag containing my uniform from Sadika. It was the uniform that had gotten covered with blood at the Love Hotel.
今日学校は？
行ってないよ。タクもでしょ？
I nodded. I hadn't felt like it at all.
のんちゃんたちに連絡は？
メールはしといた。
When I got up this morning, I sent both of them a text saying that I was okay. They both sent back responses almost immediately, but neither of them said much about what happened. They probably weren't mentioning it for my sake.
で、どうだ？
うん、まあ、死んでる人を見るのは初めてじゃないし。
Sadika spoke in a normal tone of voice as she drank her favorite, grapefruit juice. She better hope that she's not on any medications, because grapefruit messes with the medications a lot. She didn't seem like she was lying. That's how she'd always been ever since she was a kid. It wasn't that she didn't have any feelings, she just got over them very quickly.
タクは？大丈夫？
Now that she asked, I wasn't sure how to answer the question. The waitress brought me my Mountain View. I nodded and took it. Was I okay?
嘘マジで？それ最低じゃん。
マジマジ超焦ったっつーの。空気読めっつー話でさ。
I spun the ice in my drink as I listened to the couple's irritating conversation. Sadika silently waited for my answer. I knew that face. She'd been my friend since we were kids. There was no point in trying to hide it.
正直言うと迷ってる。
迷ってるって何を？
事件を追うかどうか。
Sadika seemed genuinely shocked.
本当に？すいません。グレープフルーツもう一つ。
She said another thing of grapefruit juice. Sadika raised her hand and ordered another drink.
いつものタクだったらチャンスだとか思って突っ走ってない？
That might be true, but things were different this time, after what I'd gone through.
そりゃホテルは怖かったけどさ。
Sadika continued as if she knew exactly what I was thinking.
昔都市伝説とか追っかけてた時もそうだったじゃん。ほら冒険だって言って病院に忍び込んだの覚えてる？
I nodded. I just had a dream about it.
あの時も怖かったけど、この怖さは他の人が経験してないもんなんだ、貴重なんだって泣きながらさ。
お前も泣いてたじゃん、あの時。
そうだっけ？
ほれ、
残すなよ。どうも。
Serika took her glass of juice and gulped it down.
De? いや、それで。
何が？
Come on.
そうか。だからさ、他の人が経験してないことを手に入れたんだからさ、それが怖かろうがなんだろうがチャンスだってタクなら言うかなって思って。
Her voice was light as she drank her juice, but her words didn't feel light at all. Something other people hadn't experienced. Something different from other people.
たまに頭いいんだか悪いんだかわからなくなるよな。
I stared at Serika's face. How much did she understand about what she was saying?
何？ダメだよ。あげないよ。
She moved the juice away from me. I was wrong. She probably didn't realize anything. Actually, she probably wasn't even thinking about anything. She really was dumb. Don't talk about her like that, dude. He's such an asshole to the women in his life.
バイトにんなこと言われてもね。
だろ？やる気がないのかって。ねえよ、普通に。
なあ、渋谷地震の被災者のコメントの話ってしたことあったっけ？
何それ？
I was pretty sure I told her a bunch of times. Well, whatever. Time for a lecture.
地震直後の混乱が収まった後、大量のマスコミが被災者に対して押しかけただろ。まだカオスチャイルド症候群者っていう言葉がなかった頃に。
Of course, I'd been in a coma for about a year after the earthquake, so I'd only investigated it after I woke up.
その取材の論調の多くは民度の高さを訴えるものだった。これだけの震災にもかかわらず、暴動や略奪などの犯罪がほとんど起きていない。実際そうなんだと思うよ。何が今一番辛いですかって聞かれた時、大半の被災者が地方の家族に自分の無事を伝えてやれないこととか、子供に好物を与えてやれないこととか、とにかく他人を心配しててさ。でもそんな中で一人の被災者が言ったんだよ。
I remembered what they said word for word. It had left a huge impression on me.
頑張れという部外者。正直うなずいたよ。心底。
They said exactly what I was thinking. I didn't know who they were, but I admired them anyway. Those feelings were the exact opposite of all the excited, fired up people on the outside.
これを言った人は僕に近い人だっていう気がするんだ。ただ一連の出来事をネットで見ていた他人とは違う。そしてただ被災しただけの人とも違う。
タクの両親のこと？
そういえば復興祭合わせの飲み、テニサーの連中も来るって。
マジで？そしたら絶対タク飲みじゃ無理じゃん。
I was different. I was different than the people who just lived normal lives in Shibuya. I ripped the bandage off my cheek. The wound had closed up. My face was back to normal. I was back to normal. The case was right in front of me. I had a huge mystery to investigate. I wasn't about to just be caught up in something. As a right-sider, it was my job to jump right into the middle of all this information, right? I could feel something like excitement mixed with a sense of duty welling up inside me. I couldn't stop myself from smiling.
また危険な目に遭うかもしれないぞ。
事件のこと？
I nodded. Serika laughed, a little strangely. And then for some reason, she patted me lightly on the shoulder. I didn't know what that meant, but I started to laugh too. Serika nodded.
よし、それならまずラブホテルの事件から行こっか。
Serika took out her Pokecom. She typed into it with a practiced hand. She seemed to be loading a video file.
なんだ、 それ。
これ現場でタクが撮ってた録画データ、警察に消される前にストレージに上げておいたの。
What? She did what? By the time I got back home, the sun had long since set and it was past 8 p.m. I realized that I'd barely eaten anything since arriving at the Love Hotel and suddenly felt very hungry, so I'd eaten a meal at LAX.
そういえばこないだ来た時から気になってたんだけど、電気ポット変わった？前はもっと。あ、ここ物置にしたんだ。
Sedika had followed me home. She started to glance around the room and offer her opinions on the way it was laid out. She would open drawers and be surprised even though there was nothing important inside, or look at new files about the cases and tell me their contents at a glance. She always was a little strange like that. She would be surprised by the most obvious things, but sometimes she would show startling insights. And wait.
なんかテンション高いな。
She laughed another strange laugh.
事件を追うのが楽しいのか？
というより、ただやりたいことは行けるところまで行かないと気持ち悪いだけ。結果はどうあれ、そうじゃないと意味ないじゃん。人間いつ死ぬかわかんないんだから。せっかく
I see, I thought. She was right. A sound came from my PC. The copy operation was finished.
よし。そしたら元のストレージのやつは削除してくれ。
なんで？
物が物だからな。他の人間に見られたら困る。
このストレージ、私が個人的に使ってるやつだから大丈夫だろ？
それでもだ。誰でもアクセスできる可能性は少しでも潰しておきたい。そうだな。お前のポケコンのやつも念のため削除してくれ。
オッケー。タク、何してるの
？We're just gonna power through the next 14 minutes. No choices. She looked over at me while she rifled through my bookcases.
カッコン島を作る。
カッコン島。
カッコン島？どこの島？
Are you serious?
飲み物だよ。ゲンさんにもらった。吐き気を抑える効果があるんだ。
へえ、よく知ってる
ね。
常識だよ。正確には中に入っている生姜に。
タク、このページ？履歴があるけど。
Crap! I forgot to delete it.
そうだよ。一応確認を取ったんだ。情報は裏を取らないといけないから。
あ、本当だ。
Sedika looks at the page from the PC and nodded. That was close. I let my guard down because I didn't think Sedika was coming over. I made 2 more cups of kakonto and handed one to Sedika.
ありがとう。ゲンさん、いい人だよね。好きだな、私。
酒癖の悪さはどうにかしてほしいけどな。
でも、タクが公園で気許してるのってゲンさんだけでしょ？やっぱりいい人だよ。
Was that why? Well, he did help me out a lot.
オッケー、削除したよ。
Sedika put away her Pokecomb. Alright. I booted up my laptop next to the wall and sat down in the chair that folded out into a bed. As I went to load the video file into the player software, I happened to glance at its length.
26分? そんなにあの部屋にいたか?
Oh, Sedika said.
違うと思う。あの時、タクが気を失って、すぐに警察が駆けつけて。で、私も気持ち悪くて吐いちゃってたんだけど、いつの間にか タクが落としたスマホを自分のポケットに入れてて、それで警察に連れてかれるパトカーの中でスマホのことに気づいて、そこで私が録画ボタンを止めたから。
So that was it. Come to think of it, I hadn't asked her how it had happened.
よく警察に消される前にストレージにあげる暇があったな。
Seneca nodded as if she felt the same way.
たまたまだよ。警察に着いた時にまた気持ち悪くなっちゃってトイレに駆け込んで。
いや、すごいと思う。
I really was. I'd passed out in the hotel, and the next thing I knew, I was at the station. Supposedly, I'd walked from the patrol car to my room. But my memory was vague and hazy. I took a big step from the cup to force down my urge to vomit and slowly let it sink into my stomach. If the recording was successful, then I should see what I saw back then. It happened only 2 days ago, but it had left such a strong impression on me that it didn't feel like that much time had passed at all. I took a deep breath and told myself it was time to do this. I looked over at Serika. She nodded back at me, then looked at the monitor. Okay. I tried to steady my slightly shaking finger as I clicked the file. The first thing I noticed was that sound. The peaceful sound of a music box that filled the room coming from that spinning bed. A dark, gloomy room. It had a curtain in the back and a rotating bed behind it. It was that room. The same emotions I'd experienced before came flooding back to me through the blurry screen. Ah, an emotional flashback, huh? I could sense my own hesitation from my gasping breaths. Sedika grabbed my shoulder at the sudden sound.
大丈夫。確か僕が床を踏み鳴らしたんだ。
そっか。
The camera was slowly moving toward the back of the room. At some point, my breathing matched my breathing from the recording. It scared me, so I pulled away a little and took a deep breath to isolate myself from the person in the video. I heard that sound. The sound of the wire creaking as the bed spun. I could feel the panic coming through the screen. I wasn't sure what to do.
進むぞ。
I could tell that Serika was gulping a little. As I spoke, the camera kept moving forward. I could hear Serika's soft gasp in the video. The police officer and that woman were lying on the floor. I hadn't realized it at the time, but the glass was scattered all around. The camera quickly panned without warning. It was that bed. The silhouette behind the curtain was probably that man. The angle was off and wasn't pointing directly at the bed. At that point, I'd stopped paying attention to the smartphone. I heard a dull thud and the screen went black.
落としたのかな?
多分。
It seemed like I'd tripped and fallen backward. The phone had probably fallen from my hands. Was it black because the camera had fallen face down? Tedika's voice sounded like it was a little far away. The smartphone was still picking up sound, evidently. I could hear myself trying to open the door and swearing when it failed. That's right. I'd been fighting with the door then. And then... my body shivered as if it had gone numb. This was... I could hear it.
聞こえたよな。
I could hear it. The police said the surveillance cameras hadn't shown anyone else coming into the room, but I could hear it. That constant rhythmic knocking. Somehow it made me feel uneasy and scared. Someone had been on the other side of that door. And suddenly the screen moved. It was showing the man on the bed. The screen was blurry, but the man was almost exactly in the center of the viewfinder. Had I picked up the smartphone? I couldn't remember. In the video, I ignored Serika's voice. It kept pointing the camera at the man. I could hear my own rough breathing, and I remembered how I'd felt then. Then suddenly I heard a snap. Oh, ah. Oh, stop. No. The screen moves violently for a second, and then for a moment it showed the girl. Then the angle changed again and it stopped moving. The screen was covered in red blood, but... Is that... What I was looking at was probably the room's ceiling. Since it didn't move at all, this was probably where I'd passed out and dropped it. Just like before, the camera was still recording the sound. I could hear Sedika vomiting and what sounded like someone falling over. It caught the police officers running into the room. They were asking Sedika what was going on. She was probably the only one there who was still conscious. Shortly after, the screen went black. Sedika had probably put the phone into her pocket just like she'd said. I could hear an irritating noise that must have been the sound of the phone scraping the skirt's fabric. The screen stayed black, but it kept picking up the nearby sounds. Then at the very end, there was a quick shot of the inside of a patrol car. I realized that at some point I'd leaned my body toward the screen. I sat back in my chair. I'd known what was going to happen, but this was still hard. To be honest, I was lucky that the phone was dropped and a lot of it wasn't clearly recorded. I didn't feel as much of an urge to vomit as I'd expected, but I was still sweating from a nasty, unpleasant feeling. I gulped down the last bit of liquid in my cup. I asked Sedika. And then...
最後のとこ何か変なの映ってなかった？
何?
Weird. The whole thing was weird. Not a second of it was normal.
部屋の奥に進んでからさ。
Sedika moved the mouse to rewind the video. I couldn't tell whether she was tough, simply dense, or maybe just felt like it was nothing but a video, but she advanced to the shocking scenes with no hesitation.
ほら、ここ、これ、窓の外。
Huh? Oh, the window open? I could see the wall of the love hotel across the street from the open window. You can't tell what it is either? There was something... Oh! Oh, I see it! I see it! Do you see it? It's this. It's the Sumo sticker. It's right here. Look! You can see the hair.
虫かな?
No, that's the Sumo sticker, dude. I forgot about this. I don't remember the significance of the sticker. But oh my god, it's just haunting. It's just there. I mean, the sticker is here. They didn't notice it before. So was it always there? And I mean like outside. Was the sticker always there? Because there wasn't a window across the street from the Love Hotel, like looking into this room. And no one said anything about the sticker then either. So I'm wondering when the sticker appeared. So that's weird.
こんなでかい虫がいたら、クルスが建物ごと爆破しに来るぞ。
She hated bugs.
じゃあ、いたずら書き?
No, if you squint your eyes. You don't even need to squint. Hold up. Let me see if I can take a little screenshot. Because it'll be bigger if I put it up like this. Let me see. Before the game tells us, I just wanna see if I can show what I'm looking at right now. What the hell? Where are my screenshots? Huh. Where did it save? Oh, okay. Screenshot. I see it. Huh? Is that popping up? It should be the right one. 235,708. Yes. See? Right here. This is the sticker shape. You see the hair? Sorry, my neck was like breaking because I was out of frame briefly. That is so creepy. And you know, it's weird that Serika is so calm just looking through the footage after she was freaking out before. How was she able to spot this detail? Why was her first answer a bug and her second answer the sensible one?
いや、ちょっと待って。なんかどっかで。
Yep, zoom in. Computer. Enhance. Enhance. Zoom. I switched from my player software to my editing software and then blew up that part of the screen. Exactly what I just did. Damn it, I could make it out, but it was so far away that it was blurry. The resolution was too low. No, it is not. This is the sumo sticker. It's this. Right here. Oh! This is a good place to stop. Like, the door's open. No, no exit game. We save game. How do I save again? Wait, I can just... This. Okay, save. Be back tomorrow with the rest of the game. Now, let's find someone to raid. And then do a good night. And then tomorrow play Cuphead. And this game again. And then the day after, we're starting Control. Another really awesome game. And after that, Nancy Drew game. So, let's find someone to raid. Artori. Silver D Fang is playing Stray Gods. Let's do that. Silver D Fang. Actually, I didn't even check if how long the stream has been going on. Probably check before I raid. Oh, just an hour and a half. Okay, that's fine. So, bye-bye everyone. Join the Discord. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.